Good morning. So today the two Vajra statements, 514 and 515, they are basically making the same point, which is the correct understanding of the nature of our practice and the stages in the practices that we do, particularly what is considered to be the foundational practices. Not just Ngondro, the way people tend to talk about Ngondro. People, when they talk about Ngondro, they tend to just limit it to a very specific set of practices of accumulating 100,000 prostrations together with refuge prayers, 100,000 Vajrasattva recitations, 100,000 mandala offerings, 100,000 Guru Yogas. That is one type of Ngondro, one type of Ngondro, one type of preliminaries. Here, it's a more general as well as a much more basic and fundamental sense of foundational. Yeah? So this is statement 14 and 15. Statement 14 and 15, of course, is made in the context of contrasting or situating what is often considered to be the most interesting, profound, and then for us exciting aspects of secret mantra, which is again all this energy movement, manipulating energy, feeling this, feeling that, feeling warmth inside the body, feeling things moving up your spine and all that sort of stuff, Then even, some of you might have read, in Tantra, desire is used, you harness your desire, your attachment, you harness sexual energy and you transform it this way, you transform it that way, all of that. Even, you find books written about, like the role of intimacy and blah, 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 thinking, passion and enlightenment and all that sort of things. It's addressing, how much people like those things, talk about those things, and think they are practicing those things, and think that that's the most profound. After all, like Vajrayana is here, Mahayana is here, Hinayana is here, So what's so special about this down here? Must be up here, Then conveniently, what's up here is also very exciting, Then even when we're working up through these more basic things, it's always like, when I finally get up here, this is when the real stuff is going on. Then, of course, a lot of times we don't even bother to go up here. When we're just around here, we start to feel this, feel that, and then we say, oh, this is going on, that is going on. Yeah. If you have the kind of karma, maybe right or wrong, I don't know, then you meet someone, some teacher who say, oh, yes, this is what's going on in here. Let me show you more. This is just manipulating the body. And if we mistakenly think, these are what's most important, what's most crucial, or even if we, not just about more important, but if we don't have the context of the foundational teachings, the foundational practices, then these other things can actually lead to, which we will see today in the commentary, it will lead to the perpetuation of samsara. It will lead to the intensifying of samsara, of confused existence. So this is statement 14 and 15. So statement 14 and 15, what is not profound for others is profound here. profound for us. Without those foundations, which is what is not profound, without those foundations, which other people consider to be not profound, to be kind of, rudimentary, to be rather preliminary, without those foundations, one does not attain Buddhahood through the instructions of the channels and energies. So the 515 makes it more specific, that without these foundational matters, without these foundational practices, then these instructions for the channels and the energies and the vital essences, they will not lead to Buddhahood at all. So now let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary, 514. This Vajra statement is like the following example. Becoming a universal king necessarily depends on first being born into a royal family and then gradually perfecting one's strength. So uses the analogy, and this is given in the early commentaries of this statement, commentaries of Gongchik on this statement. They give this analogy. They say, in order to be a great king, you have to first be born into a royal descent. Of course, this is based on ancient ideas of legitimacy. Using that as an example. So first you have to be born into a royal line, a royal descent. Then from there, also, you need to be trained. So if you don't have those bases, say you're born in a royal lineage or royal line, but you have not been properly trained, you will not have the capacity to become a great king, a good king. Or if you have training and you have not royal descent, according to these ancient ideas, you also don't have what it takes. So you need to have both of these. So then these are the foundational, these are the preliminaries. These are often considered not profound. But then if you really understand this analogy of who can and cannot be king, then you would know, at least in the ancient times, to be able to be 100% sure, that this son born to the queen, or any number of the queens, is actually the son of the king. That's why, in many cultures, where the queen lives, there are no males there. Even the men that work there, surgically, things have been done, make sure that they have no chance of endangering the clarity of the royal descent. So these are you got to make sure that you have these basic ingredients, a basic foundation has to be developed. So therefore, here, Khenpo Kunpal says, what is not held to be profound by others is here as follows. Among the following, the first are considered to be more profound, and the subsequent gradually less so. Among the following, the first are considered to be more profound, and the subsequent considered less so. So this is Kyobpa's view. This is the unique understanding. Taking refuge. And then the three collections of teachings. Then the three trainings of the three vows. The causal and the resultant vehicles. The four classes of tantras. The four empowerments. Or the aspiring and the engaging bodhicitta, the path of liberation and the path of desire, also sometimes called the path of means or methods, the generation stage and the completion stage practices, and the completion stage practices with constructs and without constructs. So here, for every one of these categories given, Jigten Sumgon actually says, the earlier is more important than the subsequent. So here, let's say the four classes of the causal and the resultant vehicles. Often the causal vehicle is referring to the paramita vehicle, and the resultant vehicle is the secret mantra vehicle. In this context, Kyobpa says the paramita vehicle is more profound than the secret mantra vehicle. Now, quickly footnote, right? This does not mean, he says, no need to practice the secret mantra. In fact, it's not the straightforward, oh, this is more profound than this, therefore do this, no need to do that. It's not that kind of conclusion that you should come away from here. Right? It's saying you need both. You need both. But in order to get maximum result of engaging in both, you need to understand of the two. The beginning one, the beginning part of these two parts is more fundamental than the second part. In a way, you could say the second part is simply to finish off the process. The main part is the main process. So if you only if you only had the main process, in a way, and if you only had the main process, the beginning part, and if you really practice well, Kyobpa is saying it will naturally lead to the concluding part. However, if you begin with the concluding part, there's no way you can reach the result. In the next Vajra statement, it in fact says, not only that, if you begin and you only focus on the concluding part, the elaborations, to finally kind of push you to the other side, if you only relied on that without the main part, right, it can even mislead you. It can become the cause for further circling in confusion. Yeah, so between the causal and the resultant vehicles, causal is the main part, the resultant is kind of working out the final details. So then, the three trainings, or the three vows, then the individual liberation vows is like the main training there. Then it is enhanced by the Bodhisattva training, enhanced and finally perfected through Vajrayana. The four empowerments, for example, the vase empowerment, the secret empowerment, the wisdom knowledge empowerment, and the word empowerment. The word empowerment is the Mahamudra pointing out. That's one way to give the word empowerment. The pointing out instructions of Mahamudra is the equivalent of the word empowerment. So many people think, oh, I want this pointing out. I want this word empowerment. I want this pointing out. I want this pointing out, meaning I want to be introduced directly to my Buddha nature. Here, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, actually, the vase empowerment, which sets you onto realizing Buddhahood through these four empowerments, the vase empowerment is more fundamental, more profound. Mainly, it's that. The other three that comes after that is to help take this process that you have began with the vase empowerment to completion. Then, Generation state and completion stage. A lot of us think, oh, completion stage is more profound. And then we just want to meditate without form, without sound, without smell, without taste, without touch. And we just want to, then we imagine, oh, that's completion stage. Now I'm in a state of Buddhahood. Here, according to this, the creation stage is more profound, more fundamental. Here it's saying, if you really know how to practice the creation stage and you practice creation stage, naturally it will lead to completion stage. Completion stage will become possible. Then among completion stage, with constructs and without constructs. With constructs mean there are methods. Without constructs, no more methods. So you have to begin with the methods. Then when you really focus on these methods, then when the time is right, when it is ripe, when the time is right, and it is ripe, the fruit will fall. So the ripening of the fruit happens naturally. Then when the fruit is really ripe, the wind would blow a little bit, or an animal would knock the tree a little, the fruit falls. That's like the final, and of course, if you don't have any understanding, you think shaking the tree is going to cause the fruit to fall. You have to shake very, very hard until you destroy the tree before the fruit will fall, if it is still green and not ripe. And so you ripen that through the things that people consider to be not profound. You ripen the fruit through those practices. Thus, if one does not have the lower basics, which are the stepping stones or foundations for the higher paths, it is like building a multi-storied house or a tower without foundation stones. Since one will not attain the qualities of the higher paths, it is profound to practice a path that starts with the basics, the refuge that grants one entrance to the ranks of Buddhists, and which is the foundation for all qualities. It is said in the Vajra, first one should give the 24-hour vows to disciples. Therefore, since one might become, so here quoting the Vajra is saying, even beginning with, giving someone or taking vows for just 24 hours. You say, well, shouldn't you do that for lifelong? It's okay. If you can at least start with making a commitment for one day, I'm going to keep this vow, this vow, this vow. That already is really very good, very helpful. Therefore, since one might become like the practitioners who do not gradually contemplate the four thoughts and turn the mind, the four thoughts that turn the mind, and so forth from the bottom of their hearts, like the practitioners of today who talk about the Dharma, but in practice ignore cause and result and only engage in non-virtue and negativity. Therefore, Jigten Sumgon considers the foundational practices to be most profound. Thus, all the topics of this single intention, all the topics in this collection called the single intention, are taught mainly in this way. Mainly, this is the point. And if one understands this key point, then one will understand the meaning of this Vajra statement. And in fact, one can more easily understand the rest of the statements in Gongchik. Elsewhere, Jigten Sumgon also says, so the analogy here, right, is the analogy of built foundation stones and building. So the analogy of climbing a ladder is not so good. Climbing a ladder has a sense of you leave behind, the last step, to go up to your next step. So, I mean, not that it cannot work, this analogy, but the analogy a little bit not so good, because it has this idea that, oh, what you practiced earlier, you leave behind. Kyobpa's explanation is, no, you don't leave behind what you practiced earlier. You refine what you practiced earlier. You make it more and more profound. You make it more and more profound. You don't leave behind. And so Kyobpa Rinpoche says, the samadhi, the mental concentration that you develop right at the beginning of the path, it is that samadhi, it is that mental stability of mind and mental equipoise, that meditative equipoise, that is refined all the way through to the Buddha's Vajra Samadhi, the Buddha's immovable Samadhi. It's the same Samadhi, it's the same mental equipoise, but at the beginning, it needs a lot of refinement. It needs a lot of polishing until it becomes the Buddha's Vajra Samadhi. And so from there also, as in Drikung would say, you take all empowerments as the one single empowerment. So then you don't need to I don't know if I should take this empowerment. I've taken this empowerment before. Oh, I don't need this empowerment. Oh, I feel like I want to take that, as if, there are different things. But if you have the key understanding, then all empowerments are one empowerment. And then also all gurus are one guru. Then no more contradiction. Keeping the one vow is begins you on various other descriptions and discussions about different aspects of this vow until you completely perfect the vow. Hence, even the title of this collection, is the single. Single, not in the sense of only one is true, the rest is false. Single in the sense of comprehensive. Single, one, comprehensive, holistic, everything brought in together without contradiction. Single in that sense. So 515, continuing with the above topic, one should practice the paths from the basics on up, like the steps of a staircase. I just say, that one is not so good. Sorry, excuse me, this commentary. But really, sometimes the steps, this idea of I don't need that step anymore, The better analogy is like building a house. You always need the foundation stone, Anyway, here it's emphasizing you need to do it sequentially. That's the emphasis in this commentary. Anyway, without those profound pith instructions on the foundational practices of discipline and the path of liberation, there is no need to mention that one does not attain Buddhahood by starting with the instructions of the channels and energies and essential drops. One will not even attain a slight temporary result of peace and happiness. If you don't have the main part and you jump to the advanced instructions that you think, if I just do that, I'll be fine. It says, forget about attaining enlightenment. Even temporary happiness, you're not going to find. temporary happiness, even that you're not going to find. Because the so-called profound advanced practices you do will only create more chaos in your life. So he quotes this quote from Jigten Sumgon. The 360 methods for passionate union and the vital points of the channels, energies, and essential drops are not profound. Here the translation, I've looked at another translation of this passage. I think the meaning comes out clearer if we translate this way. The 360 methods of passionate union and the vital points of the channels, energies, and essential drops are not profound unless they are purified into the absolute space of clear light. Then they are the Buddha's teachings. Yeah? Let me read that again. The 360 methods of passionate union and the vital points of the channels, energies, and essential drops are not profound until or unless they are purified into, they are made pure into the absolute space of clear light. Then they are the sage's teachings. And continuing, and then the Buddha described the secret mantra or characterize, explain the secret mantra to be profound, as profound and essential vital points. In other words, these channels, energies, and essential drops, right? By themselves, they are not the Buddha's teachings yet. Only when they are practiced and utilized with this wisdom of the absolute space of clear light, then they become the Buddha's teachings. Then they are now the vital points and the profound instructions of secret mantra. Otherwise, so continuing, otherwise, they are non-Buddhist methods for accomplishing samsara. Lord Pamadrupa has taught this repeatedly with great insistence. And the 360 methods of passionate union is actually referring to a text like Kama Sutra. You might have heard of that. You know, all the different positions, you know, to maximize your sexual pleasure. And they are found, you know, in secret mantra teachings. And then, of course, gets people very excited, you know. And Kyobpa says, you know, if they are not brought into this clear light, this absolute space of clear light, in other words, if their emptiness is not realized, meaning, in other words, if you have not seen through the traps of this pleasure, or not just pleasure, but also these intense feelings that you might have, that might come up. If you don't have a way to cut through that and see their clear light nature of absolute space, then these intense experiences that come up, they become the methods for accomplishing samsara. Khenpo Kunpal continues, thus the non-Buddhist upholders of extreme views, the outsiders who uphold extreme views, also have meditations on the channels and energies. So here explicitly, actually, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, you know, these types of practices of the subtle body also exist among those who have no understanding of Dharma. And practicing like that will not lead you out of samsara. Then moreover, to attain clairvoyance and magical abilities, one must be free from attachment. Now, elsewhere in some of the older commentaries, they actually say, actually, you can practice some of these intense methods and then still have attachment and still reach some kind of magical powers. That's when it gets really dangerous. And you might think, oh, I'm beginning to be clairvoyant. Oh, when I think of something, something happens. Oh, this is actually some obstacles coming. Yeah, some Jigten Sumgon says in the Chintamani, when obstacles are really coming, sometimes they come in the way of things going really well. And then for lamas, disciples are gathering. Everything you do seemingly successful. So great warning, things feel really good. Be careful. Be careful. This could be certain types of interdependences happening, and you're not able to see. Because one of the points of interdependence is nothing is sure, Everything is composite, compounded. And one element of the compound changes everything. Good things that are going on, bad things that are going on, they are absolutely of the same nature, like that. And so, coming back to this, some proclaim, my secret mantra is the profound path of consort practice for desirous ones. So related to like the Kama Sutra instructions and the winds, drops, and channels. And then, it says some of these people, they say, I have this secret mantra practice, where you can use the profound path of a consort practice, meaning this karma mudra, and if you have a lot of desire, if you have a lot of, sexual desire, more like sexual frustration, then you also want to be spiritual. Oh yeah, here, I have a method, I will teach you. And they practice like selling a woolen cloth with loss, using the excuse of starvation. This is a very nice Tibetan saying. In the footnote, it says, this is a saying of like, you pretend to sell this cloth for really cheap, saying to people, see, just today, I have, this is special today, because I really need money, my family have not eaten for 3 days now. So I actually, this is more expensive normally, but today, just very cheaply, I will sell to you. So it's talking about, there are lamas like that, really seeing that you're gullible now. Yeah, so to put it in very mundane terms, okay, if anyone, any teacher, or with or without title, anyone that you think, knows more advanced, and then they start talking about these sorts of things, right? Yeah. It doesn't need to be just, like sexual desire things, whatever kind of desire things, And then if they insinuate, right, I understand, and this is your situation, and so I can help you, I can help you transform this. If you practice with me, then this can be transformed, right? It's like, so then there's a suggestion that I'm only doing this to help you, right? I can guarantee you will see a pattern. Meaning, among male and female disciples, this person will only offer this special treatment to one side and not the other side, whatever their preference is. If they are truly compassionate and doing this method, then equally both sides, Unless their basic preference is both sides, that's a different story. But that's rare among human beings, You have preference for one over the other, and they will only offer this service, this, out of compassion for you, I will guide you through this to only one side. Then you know what is going on. They are selling woolen cloth for really cheap on the excuse of, starvation. That's the saying here. So what's going on is they ignore cause and effect and are careless about the loss of their vows and their pledges. They do not even attain the slightest of common accomplishments. For what they are doing is like flowers in space, trying to use flower in space, which means they don't exist, This is referring to someone who suffers from like a certain kind of eye disease like cataracts, You start to see things kind of floating in the air. That's called flowers in space. This is like taking flowers in space to go adorn the daughter of a barren woman. By definition, a barren woman cannot give birth. The reason is stated in the following quotes. It is said in the sadhana for accomplishing of wisdom, I do not see a difference between any bodily blowing exercises and blowing with bellows. The yogis who see suchness do not do the actions of bellows. It is said in the Vajra, not having that, one will not get bliss. If one does not have bliss, one will not get that. What is that? That is the vital essence. The vital essence depends on the reproductive fluids. So the proper practice of secret mantra is to retain that and not to release that. Retain that and then dissolve them to spread them in the entire body, as in the subtle body. That's when the mind then settles and calms down. Because now they are concentrated into these regenerative essences and reproductive essences, right? Then we, lose them. The advanced practice of these winds, channels, and drops is to harness that and spread them. Obviously, they're not talking about the ovum or the sperm being spread. They're talking about the vital energy that moves those things. That is what is being spread, diffused. Diffused so that they are not, they're not like stuck in our only mundane way of being able to experience some kind of a peaceful. So that's why in secret mantra, they do deal with matters that are not mentioned explicitly in the other vehicles, because it's so easy to misunderstand. that people think, oh, secret mantra, you can do these things that you cannot do in the earlier. It's not that. It's precisely saying that the secret mantra has that key to free you from, actually, to free you from being attached to the strongest of attachments. In a way, it's sort of like the DNA level. Even we say that, evolutionary biology, to perpetuate your genes, you would even destroy everyone and destroy yourself. The insect world, has some good examples, right? A praying mantis the male praying mantis will, in the process of passing down the genes, in impregnating the female, would feed himself to the female, and the female would be like chomping on his head and eating him, and he happily lets that happens to increase his chances of impregnating the female. So to the point of even destroying yourself, there's this push, right? So here, to the degree that secret mantra do treat these issues, it is not the way that people misuse them. So Rizing Chodra also said, another quote, that is to say, the realized ones nowadays practice the path of desire and only increase samsaric existence, whereby they expand their families and make efforts to buy a place in the howling hell. Do you not see that? Even in his time in the 17th century, he says these so-called practitioners of the path of desire, of secret mantra, all they end up doing is increasing samsara. So there's a play of words here, meaning, they're making babies. they're bringing more, into samsara, right? In that sense. Of course, they're also bringing samsara in the sense of, their own confusion. But he's playing with this, as in, all they're doing is, further populating samsara and end up, so then after you have all your kids, right? You need a bigger house. He says, you know what house you're actually buying now? You're buying real estate in the hell realm. This is not, okay, you should not misunderstand this. This is not like saying what lay people are doing is bad. No, I mean, they understand quite naturally this is our condition. However, if you think the secret mantra practices somehow, right, can be used in this wrong way, then hopeless, Medicine has turned into poison. Medicine has turned to poison. Yeah, overall, I can also say, Tibetans are not prudish, they, nomadic people, they understand, they're not prudish. They're quite forthright about, oh, yes, a married couple or young people, they, in fact, in older Tibet, they have no real marriage even. A man and a woman will just pair up. After a while, everyone is like, oh, they're together. Oh, they have kids, It's a very kind of natural, the way we think of natural. No, unless you're a very rich, powerful family, there's no big hoo-ha about arranging marriage and, doing ceremonies, everything, like among the common people would just pair up. Young people will pair up, sometimes pair up, break up again, So they don't have a harsh judgment on what's quite naturally biological processes. Here, the judgment is about when you say you are, doing these practices for these spiritual reasons, but you end up, only increasing your stay in samsara, then no hope. Then no hope. The medicine that will finally cure you, now you have turned into poison. Then very damaging. This is what it's saying, okay? So this is not anti-biology, no. Yeah, don't misunderstand. I would not even say, like this is anti-sex, it's not. It's not pro either, don't get me wrong. It's just as a matter of fact, yeah, that's how, things are. But do not either abuse this or be abused by others using this sort of stuff. And yourself, be clear what is fundamental in terms of the training that we are engaged in. So that statement earlier we saw, it says that one of the Vajra statements in the supplementary that says, in fact, the instructions for the winds, drops, and channels are even more profoundly presented and taught in the vows of the monks and the nuns, in particular, the individual liberation vows. Because there, through mindfully, carefully avoiding all the non-virtues of the body, then all the channels become straight, flexible, and without blockages. Through carefully, mindfully, clearing all harmful, hateful, distracting, deceptive speech, being attentive to how we talk, what we talk about, to whom we speak, right? Then all the wind energies become pure, become clearer and clearer and clearer. Then through guarding the mind, protecting the mind, then these vital essence, don't just go, in a certain direction, and then we become attached to those experiences, but they can be spread throughout our whole person. Then we become more stable. And then we're not chasing intense experiences that just come and go like that. And then we become more equanimous. So in that way, just practicing avoiding the 10 non-virtues, then your winds, drops, and channels, they all naturally fall into place. Yes, there's a question.
Yes, Lapanla, I have a question about the Yapyum deities. Why we need to sometimes visualize the deities in the form of Yapyum? What is the function of the?
Yeah, so
Thank you,
the
Lapan.
deities in union, that's wisdom and compassion. And that's also to clear our obsession with the joining of the organs. They use the code word like this. But generally, in India in the past, this is not so like commonly displayed. But then now, especially everywhere. All these tankas of, not very helpful, I think, in my own personal, because it leads to misunderstanding. I can say, at Urban Dharma, we don't have this imagery. It's not necessary, I don't think we're being prudes, but it's just not necessary. It's for when you're ready for this training, and then you train. But it's often leads to more misunderstanding. So now let's dedicate, and also other than the dedication, the words and the meanings in Jigten Sumgon's dedication prayer, also today's practice. May all those who are traveling to the teachings here, may your travels be smooth. See you all soon. Then my travel, may it smoothly go and come back quickly. And so tomorrow and Wednesday, we will not have class. Thursday, we probably will. So, sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, 4 causes of samsara and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers, and may all mother sentient beings as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm those who create obstacles, and their Mara retinues have happiness and be separated from suffering and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. Of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment when with my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life by the virtues collected in the 3 times by me, entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay. Happy beginning of the week. See you all soon.